Hello my creative friends. I made this card and I thought I would show you some things that I learned along the way so you could create it. It's actually pretty easy. So let's get started. I'm going to start by making this wreath. To make the wreath, I'm going to take one of these trees from the Merry Minis and I'm going to stamp it in gumball green ink onto gumball green cardstock. I'm just going to stamp it a bunch of times. I'd say probably at least 20. To punch out the tree, you simply just put it into your little tree punch that comes in the pack. There's a pack of 3. And punch it out. So I'm going to punch out all these trees and I'll be right back. So now that we have a bunch of these trees punched out, let's do the base for our wreath. And to do that, you're just going to take a 1 3/4 inch circle punch. Punch that out. Then you're going to take your 2 3/8 inch scallop circle punch and line it up with the hole in the middle and then just punch that out. I don't want to get any glue on my mat, so I just took one of these silicone rubber sheets. The glue does not stick to it, so I'm going to use that, and I'm going to use the Tombow Mono Multi glue. Whoa, way too much. Okay, way too much glue. It came out really, really fast. You don't need that much. But what you're going to do is put just a little bit of glue on each of the Christmas trees and basically just stick them down going around the circle. This glue tends to get all over me and I just don't like the feeling of having sticky glue on me. So I went ahead and grabbed some tweezers, and I think it's easier if you grab it by the tip of the tree and just put some glue down towards the bottom. Stick it on and let it go. I'm zooming in for this last one. Can you see there's just a little bit of a gap in between those two in the stem? And this is just going to go right over the top. And then I'm just going to pay attention to it when I put it on the card. And I have a little bow here ready to go. I'm just going to put the bow right over there and you'll never even know that it was there. So here's what I did. I took a standard letter size piece of cardstock, so it's 8.5 by 11. I'm going to cut it in half on the long side, the 11-inch side. I'm going to cut it at 5.5, and we'll have a 5.5 by 8.5 piece. Actually, we'll have 2 of them when we're done. So I'm lining this up at 5.5 right down here. And there's 2 blades, and the nice thing is that you can fit both of them in the track. This is the first time I've had a cutter that can fit both of them in the track and keep them in the track at the same time. So the darker one cuts. I'm just going to pull that down. Ooh, that was nice. It is so smooth. Okay. I know, it's the little things that thrill us, isn't it? I'm going to score it. The lighter blade is the one that scores. And I'm going to score it at 2 1/8. So there's a little teeny tiny hash mark. That would be the 16th. The next hash mark, which is a little bit taller, that's the 8th. So scored at 2 1/8. Yep. And then flip it around and score it at 2 1/8 again. And if I did my math correctly, these should both fold towards the center and meet in the center. So we'll find out. Ta-da! It worked! Okay, let me move this out of the way. You just want to use your bone folder to make those really crisp. And now you've got the gate. The next thing we're going to do, or the door in this case, is I have 2 pieces of soft suede, and this is cut, they're both cut at 2 by 5 3/8. And what that does is it gives your door a little panel. You're going to take the Textured Impressions embossing folder in wood grain. And I just lined my 2 pieces of the door, just butted right up next to each other, go in the same direction, emboss them both at the same time, and that way it looks like the wood belongs together. So I've got my sandwich here, clear plate, embossing folder with the cardstock inside, another clear plate. I'm going to open this up to tab 1 and just run it through my Big Shot. The next thing I'm going to do, so that the wood grain really shows up and so that it looks like a door that's possibly been used a little bit, is I'm just going to take some soft suede ink and one of my sponges that I cut into a wedge, and I'm just going to sponge all around the outside and even just run it very lightly. I'm not pushing very hard, but I'm just running it very lightly over the paper. And what this does is it just picks up a little bit of the ink and it gives it a little bit of a weathered look. I really like. Your next step is to bring this pad back in, and it's great for stamping on. It kind of evens out your stamp surface. I actually have a little bow here in the middle of my table. It's actually 2 pieces of table put together, so this is really nice because it evens out that surface when I'm stamping. But you can also use it to punch through. So here's what I did on the other card. I have this paper piercing mat. I have one of the newer ones, but at the moment I am not sure where it is in this big old mess, so I'm just going to use my old one. But the paper piercing packs have little holes, and I'm just going to line it up with 1 hole in the middle and then just go over 2 and punch, and then go over to the other side and punch. And what that will do is it'll make my doorknobs line up on either side. Let me just take my paper piercing tool, and like I said, I'm going over 2, and then from the center I'm going over 2. Okay, so I just poked 2 holes, and this paper piercing tool doesn't go too far in to the mat pack, so I'm just going to push it all the way through. You see that? And again, just go through a little bit more. Okay, I am all out of my brass gold brads, so I'm just going to use these silver ones and see how that looks. It's not going to stand out as much on the door, but gotta use what I have. I like to take my paper piercing tool to open those up. And I just go straight down, and then actually I'm going to turn this so that the brads go up and down. There we go. And you don't want it too very tight. Can you see how there's a little bit of a gap? That is so we can eventually wrap the linen thread. Oh, that gap is so that we can eventually wrap the linen thread around the brads. You're going to take your Tombow glue again, and this works great when you have embossed pieces. And what you want to do is then center your wood piece, your soft suede piece, on the door frame, so that you have just a little bit of that very vanilla showing through all the way around. Next, take your linen thread and just tie it in a little knot. I'm going to do a double knot around one of your doorknobs. And once you have that tight, you want to just clip off the excess at the end because you don't want anybody to pull that out. And then simply wrap it around. And I like to leave an extra tail so they know to open it from the end with the extra tail. So that part of the door is done. I just have a couple of little tips for the wreath here. It's still a little sticky wet. Okay. You're going to want to take the little pieces that are on the edges of your dimensional and cut some of them. Now remember, okay, this is the top. This is where we put our top. And we want the top up here. So we only want to put, most of our dimensionals, I should say, on this side. So flip it over. And then I'm going to just take one dimensional, put it on the opposite side. And the reason I did that was so that it would lay flatter across here when it's shut. But to hide it so that you don't see it on the back, just take one of your dimensionals, one of your trees that you punched out, and I'm lining it up with a tree in the front so it doesn't show up. Ooh, I better go closer so you can see. Can you see that? I just put this tree on top of it, and that way when you turn it over, it's not very noticeable. Okay, so pull these off. Find your top again and make sure your top is over here, right in the center, and then all the sticky dimensionals are on the other side. Make sure it's centered. Press it down, and there you go. My last step for this card is to just take that bow with the stitch grosgrain ribbon that I made. It's on a dimension, or it's on a glue dot. And I'm just going to put it right at the top, cover up where those two trees meet, and there's my card. Isn't it just darling? I think this card would be super cute adding some of the red, let's see, Dazzling Details Cherry Cobbler. Be like little holly berries on there. You can use any of the sentiments in the greetings of the season on the inside, but what I think I'm going to do with these is take them to the Christmas parties that we go to and give them to the host and hostesses, or send them after Christmas just to thank them for inviting us over. So I hope that I had a tip or two to share with you. I hope that you will try this card out. It's easier than it looks. And I hope you have a very Merry Christmas. Find some time today to get a little creative. Bye.